Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back again with another video. Today's video, we are going to be using some products from Trinity Stamps. We're using the triangle trees, I picked out the Merry, but I wasn't sure about it. I ended up using the Christmas, the Insider Sentiments, and their coordinating dies. And then I used this, is it a repeat? Retro snowflake wrap background stamp. And so today what we're making is independent or freestanding shaker elements. Because sometimes it's just so much easier if you don't have to build the shaker into your card, honestly. And that was the case for me. I wanted to do the trees as shakers, but I wanted to have them all different colors. Now, I did it so that they're built separately, but you certainly could do it a traditional shaker card, and then you would just put foam pieces in between each tree to keep the sequins or rhinestones or filler, whatever you're using, separate. So I've cut out one, it's more like a medium-sized tree, and then two of the same size, smaller ones for either side of it. And then I wanted a frame to go around them. So I put the, whatever size the triangle was, whatever size my tree was, I picked the one that was just smaller than that. And that way I could create this nice little frame so that the acetate would have something to attach to. And so I cut that out. Everything's out of white cardstock because we're going to do ink blending. But then I also used that frame to cut it out of foam. So this way I don't have to worry about cutting a bunch of frames and stacking them up or using foam tape and trying to get it exactly, thin enough. I just cut this frame out of some craft foam, and then that way it will be tall enough for me to be able to put shaker elements inside, and it will perfectly line up with the frame that we've already created. So this was just the easiest way that I found. And then for your acetate, you want to use the same size as the background. You want to use that same size to cut out your acetate, so that way it will go edge to edge and keep all of your pretty little shaker bits in. Speaking of pretty little shaker bits, there's tons of Black Friday sales going on right now, and Trinity Stamps is also having a sale. They are having 50% off their Blending Buddy brushes. If you've watched my videos, you know that these are actually my favorite, and I've spent I don't even want to tell you how many dollars of my own dollars to use them because I like them the best. 40% off their last chance category, 25% off stamps, dies, and stencils, and 10% off their card making sketchbook. Here what I'm doing is I'm just going in with a adhesive eraser and getting any of my tape residue off before I do my ink blending. We're going to be ink blending the background piece, or like the lid is what I will call it later, and then also the frames. I just chose three kind of bright fun colors. They're not traditional Christmas, but you can do literally whatever colors you like, and you can do this in whatever shapes you like. I just thought that this would be fun for, maybe like my niece, to give her little Christmas gift. She almost always wants gift cards. Different generation. But anywho, so I'm just going to go in, and you could do them all one color. I chose to do a little bit of a gradient. So I'm completely covering the background with my lightest color and then blending about halfway up with my mid-tone, and then just on the bottom edge with my darkest color. I did notice as I was going, because I wanted to add the color to the widest part, I was holding on to the thinnest part of the triangle, that if I was going too fast, I pushed it up and bent it. So I made sure to just kind of take my time for the really thin frame. I didn't do circles at all. I just kind of used my Blending Buddy to brush on the color, and it was still super saturated and even. These are fantastic, guys. They're really, really good. And now that they're 50% off, I also have to go more shopping because I like having a lot of options. I don't like using the same ones over and over again. I like having a lot of options for a lot of colors. I got a lot of colors. Anyway, so I'm going to go through each one of these. I picked like a tealish blue, this yellow green, and a pinkish purple. So let's talk. Before we get into that, so I told you that this is their sale and it's a fantastic one. But also they have released a copious amount a veritable cornucopia, if you will, of new embellishments. And they're amazing. They're so good. You guys, there's the regular rhinestones, there's confetti, there's clay pieces. If you are a person who's like, I'm down with shakers or embellishing my cards, go check them out. Honeybee is hands down my favorite for sticker embellishments. Trinity is my favorite for freestanding rhinestones. They just have such great ones. And I love that whole reflecting series where they change color. Like, anybody who watched that video probably still remembers my reaction because it was a little over the top, but that's really how I felt about it. And then anyway, for those of you who have been shopping through the sales page, I appreciate you taking the time to go over there and check it out. It is very time consuming to put together, so I do appreciate when you guys take advantage of that. Right now, my page, as I am doing this voiceover, is not updated. I know it's not, because I've had some other things come up. I do intend, while this video is uploading, to go in and update it with all of the sales that have come out since then. But let me tell you why I have not been this whole week. So if you watched, I think it was a few videos ago, I told you that in the middle of my son's concert, my filling fell out of my tooth. So I was going to stop on the way home. It didn't hurt, thank goodness. Thank you, Lord. I was going to stop on my way home and pick up some just dental wax because it was a Friday at 2:30 that this broke and I couldn't find anybody that was open. So I knew I was going to have to wait until at least Monday. And my personal dentist, was closed on Monday, but I was open to other dentists. Well, when I went to the drugstore, I went to go find the dental wax I used to use when I had braces just to kind of cover the hole and protect it. And what I ended up finding was a temporary filling kit. Let's talk about this real quick. So here, I went in with the wilted violet because I wanted it to be purple, but it wasn't pink enough. And so I just went back over it with the picked raspberry and kind of changed the tone. And that worked really great. I'm going to do the same thing I did the same thing for the tealish blue one. I did the peacock feathers, I did the mermaid lagoon originally and it was a little too blue. So I went back over it with the peacock feathers and it was perfect. But anyway, so I go to the drugstore and I end up finding this kit, and I didn't even know those existed, that you could fix your own tooth at home. Now, obviously it's temporary, but it's a heck of a lot better than me rocking the whole weekend with no, with a giant hole in my tooth, even if it didn't hurt. Let's go back to the card. So now I'm going to start building these. Basically, I'm going to take my little frame, I'm going to glue it to my little triangle of acetate. These are the same size, so they should match up perfectly, and they do. So there you can see my little window. Now I'm going to then adhere the foam that we cut out, the same frame. The foam, because it is very thin pieces, you do have to manipulate it just a little bit. So it lines up pretty nicely, but because it's so thin, it's very malleable. It's very easy to move it. So what I did was I got it down, got into the glue, made sure everything was pressed down, and then I turned it around so I could view it from the front and pushed everything into place so that you couldn't see the foam looking at it from the front of the card. Once all of these are put together, I'm going to get my little rhinestones out. I used a lot, don't judge me. And then I'm going to start filling them. So I used those same ones, the white ones that are color changing. I used this one. I can't remember what they're called. Aura something maybe. I'll link them. But I used this one in all three of the little triangles, the little trees. And then there's a white one, and I use that one in all three of the little triangles. The next thing that I did was very specific to the color. So I used the blue ones reflecting sky in the bluish teal one. I used the reflecting lilac in the purple. I cannot remember what the other ones are called, but they're yellow. I didn't have a green, but because I used a yellow green and the yellow rhinestones are transparent, they pick up the green color and they worked beautifully. I had no issues. And then once I get them full, here I got a little sidetracked because I was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they had like little rhinestones that were glued in place, so that way even when they're like all the shaker bits were at the bottom, there was still some up top. So I only did this with, again, the white and that like aura color. I didn't do it with the colored ones, but this just is going to be a good kind of, so they don't look empty when all of the shaker bits are at the bottom, when the card is standing up. I did not take into account that I needed to make sure that I left room on the edge for my frame, like for my foam frame. So I do end up having to move some of these, but only one of them gave me a hard time. The rest of them were totally fine. And I also used, in the rhinestone packages, there's several different sizes, which I totally love, because I love doing big with little and teeny tiny. But so I did use the ones that were like medium to extra small because I don't have a lot of real estate here in my little trees. So anyway, so I buy the filling kit. It's super easy to use. I come home and I use it and I fill my little hole. It says right on there that it's a temporary fix. You do need to go see a dentist. Have you ever had a reoccurring nightmare? Ever in your life? Some people have, some people have not. I have. And it's not always the same nightmare, but it is the same concept. And in my reoccurring nightmare concept, which is completely terrifying to me, my teeth were falling out or they're crumbling like in my mouth or like, and it's been years since I've had one of those dreams, but it is still like vividly, hands down, one of the worst dreams that I ever had. And I used to have it really, really frequently, especially in my 20s. So fast forward to this week. I told you it's been really crazy busy. We hosted my mother-in-law's birthday last night and we're hosting Thanksgiving tomorrow. So it's been really wild just trying to fit any kind of work in between all of the other things that we're having to prep for. And so this is my own fault. I should have called and made an appointment on Monday to go in and have my tooth fixed. But I didn't. And that is totally on me. That was my fault because the temporary filling was holding so well. And I was like, oh, if I could just get through this week, like it would be better. And so, so I didn't go get it fixed. Side note, back to the card. So here, I did not make sure everything was pressed down before I tilted the tree on its side. And because of that, some of the rhinestones were trying to sneak out. I just used that little poker tool to poke them back in and then sealed it. And I didn't have any issues with it shaking around. So just make sure that you keep it as level as possible when you're putting your backs on, so that way everything stays where you want it to. So now it's a completely self-contained shaker. Like you could put this on a tag, you could, put it on your card, you could do something else with it. You could put a little backer on it and set these little guys up for decoration in your house if you wanted to. For the background, I knew that I wanted this to be a pretty clean and simple card because I have such bright colors and, the shaker element, the interactive element, but I did want something for texture in the background. I decided to use this retro snowflake wrap. I did not want to peel it off of the backer because then I have to worry about air bubbles. It's already really nicely placed on the backer, so I just put some adhesive on the back of it. The first time around, I did not press it down to my Misty door flat enough. Like I didn't make sure it was really well adhered, and so it did lift up. The second time around, I made sure it was good, and then I was like good to go. So I treated with my anti-static tool. I am going to stamp this in Versamark. I went back and forth about whether or not to just do white on white, or I have a satin pearl, which is really nice, but ultimately I decided to go with the clear sparkle. It's really, really hard to see on camera, and it's really, really hard to see in the photos. But in real life, you can see this like clear, glittery background that totally doesn't distract from the rest of the card. Like the trees are still the star of the show, but it does add a little something. So I did have to get up and give it CPR in order to get a good impression. But it was pretty much a perfect impression, and this was my first stamping. So I was pretty impressed. And then I'm going to go in with that clear embossing powder. I'm also going to white heat emboss my sentiments on black. And I think maybe there was something else that I did too. Oh, I stamped the little toppers. So I found the little toppers in the inside sentiment set, and they do have coordinating dies. And so I stamped those out and die cut them. I just picked ink that was a similar color to what I had used. I did not stamp them in my distress inks because distress ink does not stamp well. So I just found, like, you can use whatever ink you have. I happen to use Hero Arts, but I just found like a purple and a blue to match. And then for the green one, because it's the tallest one, and I used the yellow rhinestones, I chose to stamp that in yellow to make the star yellow, and because I didn't want a green star. Just real talk. I didn't think it would look right. So that is where, like, those are the things we're going to do for the next couple of minutes so that I can tell you the rest of my story. So anyway, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I was irresponsible. I should have gone to the dentist, and I didn't. So fast forward to this morning, and my husband very generously took our daughter to daycare this morning. So I just kind of got up to my own alarm. So I'm waking up, I'm still laying in bed, I'm like half asleep, and like as I'm waking up, I realize that the tooth has, like, there's something's not sitting right. And I just figured, okay, well, maybe it was the temporary filling was, maybe it was, it had been 2 or 3 days. And so maybe it was like failing and it was coming out. So I went to go, touch it to see what was going on. And literally that tooth crumbled into my mouth, into my hand. Like, my actual nightmare totally came true. And it was just as awful as I thought it would be. Like, I was not previously I was not overreacting. It was just as awful as I thought it would be. So, needless to say, I spent this morning after totally freaking out in the bathroom that my, tooth had just crumbled, because a good portion of it basically it split in half. And so half of it was still very solidly where it was supposed to be, and the other half was in my hand. So I did then call my regular dentist and was like, hey, this is my situation. And she and I have a game plan of, it doesn't matter how well I take care of my teeth. I just am a person who ends up with fillings and root canals and things like that. I guess have soft teeth. I guess. I don't know. They're not built for wear, which is great because, I have TMJ and I'm a teeth grinder. But nonetheless, so I called her and I was like, listen, this situation, like, it's totally broken. And she was like, I can't get you in to fix it until next week. And I was like, okay, but it's really pokey. And she was like, all right, come in, let me look at it. But she's like, but I have no idea if I'm actually going to be able to get you, like, I'm going to have to get you in between people because we're fully booked. Back to the card. So you guys know I've been raving about my glue press, and I love it. I do love it. Nothing's changed. But if you don't put it in the holder where the tip is attached to the, or sits on the silicone, it will clog. Here is something I did not know. My friend Dawn taught me this, and then I've realized other people didn't know it, so I thought that I would share. In the tip for the tonic glue container, there is actually a needle. And so if you have a clogged tip, you literally can just put your cap back on and it'll shove that needle into the bottle, like into the nozzle of the bottle, and unclog it for you. But I mean, it's like they thought of everything. And then you just store this lid. There's like a little notch on the front that has a hole in it. And you just store your lid there on that little notch. And that way it's always sitting there ready for you whenever you need it. So anywho, I gotta hurry up the story time. This is not a long video, y'all. We're already building the card. Funny little side note, my snowflake, I lost it. And you're gonna see me looking here. Like, I had to I was like, I'm going to watch back this video. And when I watch back this video, I'm going to figure out where my snowflake went. It was stuck to my thumb when I went to go reach for my glue gun. And that's where my snowflake went. But I had to restamp it and re-die cut it. And that was a little frustrating. But moving on. So I go in, I see her, and she was like, I'm going to have to catch you in between patients, so I don't know how long you're going to be here for. So I literally like packed up shop. Like I packed my iPad, I packed my laptop. I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm already not getting any work done. But it is what it is. So I go there. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait too long. She got me in, checked it out, and I was terrified they were going to have to pull the tooth because of how far broken down it was. So they don't actually have to pull it. She thinks she can save it with redoing the root canal, because it was a root canal tooth. And so she's like, we already had it on the list of things that we needed to do. It's just, apparently it's just given up a little bit sooner. So she's going to redo the root canal. She's going to give me a crown, but she has to build up the tooth before she can do the mold for the crown. So all of this and my insurance is maxed for the year. And I was like, okay, can I wait until January? And she was like, well, we can possibly wait until January, but like the temporary filling she put in to just get me through the next like week or two, she was like, it's not gonna last that long. Like it's only gonna last you just maybe more than a week. She was like, you can walk around with the broken tooth, but like the longer you do it, the longer we risk that we might have to extract it versus save it. And I want to keep my own teeth in my head. That's why typically I go to the dentist. So basically I walked away from there, even though it was not great. Even though it was not a great day, I walked away from there being very, very grateful that A, she could get me in at all, and I don't have to go through the holidays with a broken tooth. B, that she was able to give me a temporary fix so that my holiday will not be ruined. C, that even though it is going to be so expensive, so very expensive, that we are in a position that we can afford it. We ended up doing what is it? It's a care credit, something like that. So I'm like grateful that we qualified for that. I'm grateful that we are in a spot where monetarily we can afford it. Like, even though there's a lot of storm clouds, I have a lot to be grateful for. There's a lot more silver linings. So that is my story time, and that is my card. I hope that you guys will head over and check out the sale page once I get it updated, of course, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.